Our next question is going to begin with Jennifer Latosh. And there have been multiple iterations of the same question. City governments are dealing with all sorts of budget cuts. How financially stable is our school district? What would you do, or are you doing, to ensure future financial sustainability?
Is that it?
That's
okay.
it.
All right. I am well aware of the financial difficulties that we're facing in the district and the unrest that it's rightfully causing in our district. When the night that I went to the school board in January to ask to be appointed to the school board, I had to actually cross an informational picket line by more than 100 students or 100 teachers and staff, teachers that are teaching my kids. So I know full well the impact and the ramifications that the budget cuts from Lansing that we're dealing with are affecting our schools. I'm also well aware that in 2013, when our current board came into place, they were blindsided by a $3.5 million deficit. So we're dealing with a lot of stuff right now. The big things that are causing this are the significant loss in state funding. We now have almost $500 less per student than we had 6 years ago. We have loss of enrollment due to schools of choice and due to the increase in charter schools in the area. And we also had problems with receiving ineffective enrollment projections in which we could actually establish our budget going forward. So what are we doing now as a board to work on that and improve that? Our new superintendent is really focusing on that, and we're focusing on that with him. We have a new superintendent, assistant superintendent of finance, who's creating a better and more efficient accounting practice in which to manage our budget. We have brought in Plant Moran Cressa to actually do oversight and management of our bond. And in the 3 months that they've been in place, they've already saved almost $142,000 of that bond money. We are drastically reducing and minimizing technology costs in an effective manner. So we've actually saved almost $100,000 in technology for DLC, but they're still getting the same resources that they need to achieve. So in the past 3 months, we've done a significant amount to save almost $250,000 in the budget that we're working with. So those are just a few of the things that we've put together in a short amount of time. Thank you.
Thank you. Nan Kerr-Mueller.
Okay. Several years ago, we were put in a very difficult position when our former school board president, Keith Warnick, failed to disclose that we were in a $3.5 million deficit. Projections for the DLC were way over-predicted. In addition, over the last several years, it was apparent that the financial wizardry of our previous administration was more financial illusion than anything else. For example, when the board asked the previous superintendent for the cost analysis per building in the district to ensure that the strategic plan decisions would be made with all the information, we were told that is too hard. Our current superintendent and new financial officer are working on this as we speak. We now have the right people in our administration office that are actually listening to us and giving us real answers, listening to what we need to do to make sure that our district is the correct size, that we are serving our current students and making sure that achievement is always at the forefront of everything that we're doing. It's going to be difficult, but I strongly believe we have the right people in place now to take this on.
Thank you. Keith Warnick.
Thank you. Well, that was interesting. We've been dealing with budget deficits, or at least budget cuts, from Lansing since 2002. We'd be promised an increase in school FTE funding, and then halfway through the school year, Lansing would take it back. Yet every year that I was on the board from 2004 to 2012, even though we got those cuts from Lansing, we were able to add to our fund balance, take it from $130,000 in 2000 when the former superintendent came on board to $4.2 million when I left in 2012. As far as being blindsided by that, or me being the cause of that, the school board members that were elected in 2012 sent to all of our school board meetings. We're handed all the same information when it came to our budgets as the people on the school board. That's open information. That's not hidden. You got the same information we got, and they knew about the challenges at the Digital Learning Center which was a difference of opinion between Ferndale schools and the MDE. That cost the district $500,000, which I believe was the $500,000 that Karen said she just brought back in February of this year. It takes the MDE that long to decide what an appeal process is and what the results are. So while there's challenges going forward, and there'll continue to be challenges going forward, what we need to do is to bring effective programs that are going to draw students into Ferndale schools. I've posted a lot of my ideas on my website, on a sheet in the back, and I'm the only candidate that's proposing ideas to bring forward programs that are going to draw students back into Ferndale. Thank you.
Thank you. And lastly, Karen Toomey.
You know, I was once at a meeting of the Michigan Association of School Boards where they shared a statistic that's really resonated with me. It said, in most districts, 86% of the people who leave a district do so because of a feeling that the school district serving them is apathetic. We have changed that. That is done. We have changed the culture from the top, and that's probably going to be one of the first things that's going to affect and improve our enrollment. I'm going to echo what my colleagues have said about the $3.5 million. It is true that that information, as far as the checks and accounts, is public information, but the way it was presented again was not transparent. It's not just, is the information available, it's, is it relevant, and is it formatted in a way that is clear. So the fact of the matter is that in the last school board election, my colleague here, Keith, was sitting at the table campaigning on financial responsibility while sitting on a $3.5 million shortfall. Not only that, but the marketing plan that we had asked for years was still not in place. So that even though we did drop our schools of choice numbers to 43, we only got 36. We never even hit that lower target. So those are some of the challenges going forth. And I've already talked a lot about, and we'll continue to talk about, the new systems of accountability. But I also want to go back to that proactive advocacy. I have in front of me the exact timeline for the advocacy trip we took. And it was 3 months after Keith had left that we got the audit. We then, 6 months later, filed the appeal. It was denied in January. February, when we had that $3.5 million shortfall to deal with and our teachers were on the picket lines, we went to Lansing, we met with the advisor to the governor, and a few weeks later we got our money back.
Thank you. We are now going to radically change the rules and go to the left.
I like the laugh.
So the first question this time is going to go to Keith Hornick. Over the years, it seems that Ferndale has lost a lot of in-district residents to other school districts. What are your thoughts on how to bring residents back to the district or to increase the percentage of students coming in that reside in the district?
Well, over the last 20-some years, once Proposal A was brought forth that radically changed how schools got their students. Schools of choice came on board, and it's been a challenge. Initially, Ferndale didn't participate in the Schools of Choice program, but after a few years, they decided they should get involved in that. And with the Schools of Choice, now everybody has an opportunity to go to schools they want to without having to move out of the community. For us, in order to, as I just mentioned previously, to draw students back into Ferndale from those that have left, if that's entirely possible, is to present programs that are going to be effective for them and interesting to them. We have the CASA program, a lot of AP classes at CASA. We have AP classes at the high school. We have new honors programs at that campus. And there's others that we could bring in, such as an early college program that are popular in other states. They have them here in Michigan, but they're usually a 5-year program where you get a high school diploma and an associate's degree. But early college fast track program does that in 4 years. So there isn't any extra time they spend at the high school. Students leave with a high school diploma and an associate's degree. We also do things like small learning communities that are proposed. We can get grants from organizations and nonprofits to help do that, lower our classroom size, focus on what the needs of those particular students are, and help draw students in that way.
Thank you. Next is Nan Kermuller.
Okay. So this is true. We do lose district residents to school choice. It is also true that our birth rate is down in Ferndale. There are a lot of things happening that make it so we have a lot less children, students in our schools that live within our district limits. I think part of this reason is that because when your average preschool parent goes on, they don't know what else to do, they look for test scores. Because we have such a large alternative education population, those test scores are aggregated in with the rest of our district test scores. So while our UHS and our FHS students are very successful, they're going on to U of M, they're going on to Georgetown, these scores are aggregated with students that this is not our problem, this is like a state national problem, where the test scores are quite lower. So families are looking at this, they're seeing these test scores and thinking, oh my gosh, I need to make sure that Susie gets into college, so she has to have great test scores. We need to be better about communicating what those test scores mean and showing the community that when you disaggregate all of our data, our kids at the top are performing at the same level as the kids at the top in Birmingham. Our kids at the bottom are outperforming the kids at the bottom in other programs. We are doing a lot to close that achievement gap, and, well, we need to do a whole lot more. And finally, while this is happening, we also need to go a further step, and we need to make sure that our school of choice families also feel like they are part of our school family, because that is a fact that we need to make sure that we address.
Thank you. Jennifer Latosh.
Oh, thank you. Clearly what we need to do, the number one priority for any type of issue regarding the loss of students in the district is to work on our achievement. And we are doing that right now. We've brought in, or the superintendent has brought in a brand new team that's working on achievement, and they're working on some very exciting things for our kids right now. They're putting together a middle school honors program. They're putting together a peer-to-peer program for special education students that was hugely successful last year in the high school, and they just started a pilot project in the middle school. They're working on a pilot reading program at Coolidge Elementary School. There are so many different things that the achievement and the curriculum director is putting together that's going to really increase our achievement. And what that's going to then do is allow us, with our brand new communications director and our brand new enrollment and retention specialist that this board brought in, is to actually get the word out about how wonderful our schools are doing and how great our students are doing. We have national merit scholars. We have kids getting accepted into Big Ten schools. We have a Broadway star at Broadway in New York. He was just here last week talking to the high school students. We have all of these success stories that for too long we sat on and nobody knew what we were doing. Now we have people that are getting the word out there and saying, this is what we're doing, this is how great our kids are doing, and this is how successful they're doing. And we need to do that. We need to do a better job of explaining what the data is. As Nan said, our high-achieving kids are just as high-achieving as they are in Birmingham and Bloomfield. And our low socioeconomic students that are having a harder time, they're actually outperforming students that are similarly situated in our neighboring schools. So we need to let people know that our test scores are actually, when you look at the aggregate data, are actually really, really good. So again, with our communications team, we're getting the word out about how great our schools are and how great our students are doing. And with that, we can really put with pride the signs on our front lawn that say Eagle Pride that you've all seen. And we can put the signs on 9 Mile that say, Yay Ferndale Schools. We're proud of it. We want everyone to know how proud we are.
Thank you. Karen Toomey.
I just love working with these women. They've already said so much. So, you know, I think Superintendent Blake Pruitt is already bringing a new world to us, because we have been told for all of our years of service, Nan and I, that in order to have the programs that we want, we need to maintain about 4,000 students. That's actually not true. we can have a district that serves the right size of students, and we can put our residents at the heart of that. We currently have 1,740 residential students, and we attract several more schools of choice students into our core K-12 and our other programs. We are an opportunity where we are able to revisit those other programs and decide, are they performing according to our expectations and our visions. And as we welcome the schools of choice students into our district, it is important that we are revisiting our policies, because again, that's where we have our influences with policies. So we're looking at our schools of choice windows to make sure that they're earlier, so that we have more time to give them the targeted interventions when we welcome the kids in, so that those kids can be successful. Because it's about, how do we serve the children who enter? And that's where, as an educator, I love the conversations most. We are doing so much to improve the academics in this district with the honors program that Jen was talking about. We're working to improve instruction, teach new pedagogy. We're partnering with universities for new programs for our high school students at FHS. We need to support our teachers, watch the PLCs grow. And the thing that I am really loving is that this new energy that all of you are helping to broadcast is already bringing students back. I'm hearing of students coming from Rochester, Farmington. I have a friend who just brought their kids back from Shrine, saying it's the first kid she couldn't afford to send to U of D, and she was going to hope and pray that Ferndale High School worked out for her, but it's answered her prayers, and that's the word we need to get out.
Thank you. This next question, we are going to start with Jennifer Latosh. And there have been several versions of the same. What is your approach for holding yourself and the board accountable?
Oh, wait.
You said Jennifer.
Oh, sorry. Okay. I didn't hear that. Okay. Right. We've talked about this before, but the school board has two primary responsibilities. The first one is to set the goals and the priorities of the district, and then to establish the policies to make sure that we can meet those goals. And the second responsibility that we have is to hire and evaluate the superintendent. How we've done this with the policy angle is that we've drastically reviewed and revised the policies to make sure that we've eliminated conflicts of interest. There used to be no requirement for committees to have a conflict of interest portion in their policy. We've fixed that. And the other thing that, again, for hiring the superintendent, we have worked really hard on that, and I specifically have worked extremely hard on that one. What I did before we even hired Superintendent Pruitt is I looked at the old contract that we had for our former superintendent, and I reviewed at least 10 contracts from the surrounding areas. And I realized that we had some problems, like we all realized. So what I did is I drafted a new superintendent contract that specifically requires our superintendent to work full-time for us and our kids. And our new contract says, the superintendent agrees to exclusively devote his full-time and effort to the job of superintendent of schools. But we had to go farther, and we did go farther in the contract that I wrote. We took out conflicts of interest. Our superintendent can no longer undertake consulting agreements with outside entities. He can no longer have personal investments in any other entities that will directly have an adverse impact on our schools and our district. So we did that, we made sure, and not only that, but our new superintendent appreciated that. He likes it, he wants it. He wants to work full-time here for us, and he wants to know that, wants all of us to know that he's working full-time for us and our kids. So we made sure that that happened, and that was the number one responsibility for transparency and accountability that I can think of for the last 3 months.
Thank you. Karen Toomey.
Oh, wow, okay. To the left. So, first of all, that superintendent contract, I just want to say, is so key, and I am going to be eternally grateful for the work that you did on that, Jen, because really I can't tell you how much that set our district up for success. I think it's also important to note that we no longer have attorneys that are serving us while advising people on how to grow charters on the other side of our border. So that's another important thing to pay attention to. I think when it comes to accountability and transparency go hand in hand. And having served with NAN for many years, one of the biggest challenges was that even on the board there wasn't transparency. I served on a policy committee and asked to see a contract, tie-barred to the contract between us and the superintendent, that was for $370,000 to allow our superintendent to work with ICE, a contract company. I was denied access to that. When the termination of that contract was made, it was done on Facebook, and I didn't find out about it until later. And then again, let me bring up the fact that there was a $3.5 million shortfall that I didn't know about while there was a campaign going on for that very subject of financial responsibility. What we have done, like I said, is we're working to make sure that the information we share is timely and relevant and that the methods are going to be secure. And we are already putting our check registers scheduled to be going online so that anybody can evaluate those at any time. But let's get in and talk about what really matters. We don't need to waste our time there. Let's start doing the real conversations. Because I sincerely know and believe, having worked on this board already for 5 years, that democracy is the best form of accountability, and the accountability lies right here in this room.
Thank you. Keith Warnick.
Thank you. When I was on the board, I held myself accountable every day. My goal was to make sure that what we did at the board table was effective and beneficial to every student in the district. I didn't have kids in the district when I started in 2004. The youngest one graduated in 2002, so I had no conflict of interest on the board other than to make sure that what we did was right for everybody in the district. And when I became board president, I made a change to how you contacted the school board members. Instead of having individual email addresses where anybody could send an email to just anyone and not know whether the responses being sent back out to those people were what the school board itself would have responded, I set up only 2 email addresses, one to the board president and administration and one to all school board members, so that everybody got an email address and the answers were coming back from the board president itself. So made myself and the school board members more accountable in that area. Thank you.
Thank you. Nan Kermuller.
You can repeat the question. I don't know.
I can. What is your approach for holding yourself and the board accountable?
Okay. I, like Karen Toomey, believe that accountability and transparency are very closely tied. Oversight of our superintendent is one of our #1 jobs on the board, making sure that we stay on track for our strategic plan to be poised for academic success. 2 things that happened on the former board for me is, 1, I had to get approval for an attorney to go to committee meetings where I was not on the committee. This is something that I found very worrisome, as if I was having trouble getting information when I was on the board, what is an average citizen encountering? A second accountability and transparency issue I had was when community members came up to speak during open forum and were gavelled down because they had not filled out a card correctly. This is something I stood up for in the meeting when it happened then, and something I would stand up for again and again. It is unacceptable to make it so our community cannot address us with their concerns. While serving as the vice president, I was instrumental holding the previous superintendent accountable, asking hard questions and pressing, not letting up. Accountability and oversight of the superintendent is part of the board's responsibility. And while I was told not to question the superintendent, how lucky we were that we had him, that was not my job to sit there and appreciate him. My job was to make sure that he was doing the job that our community was entrusting him to do, and he was not.
Okay, thank you. We only have time for one more question. We're going to begin this question with Karen Toomey.
Oh.
Again to the left. This way.
I feel like you're keeping us on our toes.
I haven't changed the rules yet since the last time.
I know, I'm having all this anxiety though.
That's okay.
Where's it gonna hit? Where's it gonna hit?
Like I said, I can repeat them. This question is, what will you do to advance special education programs in the district?
Oh, I love that question. So I am so proud that we made certain to give special education its own strand in our strategic plan. Because when we say that we're fighting for the equality, achievement, and equity, we mean it for everybody. Every child deserves to be served well by this district. And so I'm very proud of the Friends for Different Learners program that we have going on here. And I'm very excited that our new superintendent has already been working very, very hard on improving special education in our district. I think another thing that speaks to the progress we've been making already on this board is that we may be the only board, I'd have to check into that Marcy Lipset and the Michigan Special Education Alliance has endorsed, because we are out there at the advocacy level and the classroom level. We're building a climate so that our students are also being entrusted with their fellow colleagues' upbringing. My daughter is so excited about the ways that she's been brought in and taught and coached in how to make those students who have struggles be more included in the classroom. At the high school, we have programs where the students are also being taught how to include the students who are struggling. I think that this is an area that we need to grow, and I'm very proud of the work that Raylon Leaks-May has done on this, on our school board. I think that, gosh, there's just too much to say about special education because it comes down to school administrative laws, but number one, we need to empower our teachers with the resources they need, both instructionally and tools in their hands, and I think that we're already in that pathway.
Thank you. Keith Warnick.
Thank you. But first we have to make sure that our school board policies work within the needs of the parents and the students, special education students. I know the new parent group has worked hard with the superintendent now and with the special education director. We are on our third special education director in about the last 6 years. So with a lot of changes once one comes in after the other one leaves. So it was a process of going through those changes. But I believe with working within that policy structure and the superintendent and the new Friends of Different Learners parent group, then we'll have success making sure that those students get all the benefits that they need.
Thank you. Nan Kerr-Mueller.
Okay. I'm going to echo the same exact program that the last two people did. The Ferndale Friends of Different Learners has been huge in our district to make sure that there is a voice, a consistent voice for different learners within our district. As a person on the board, it's very important to keep in mind that our special education parents are already very overtaxed. They're taking their kids to therapy. They're advocating for them in many ways that the rest of us take for granted. They're trying to keep on top of their IEPs, which is their individualized education plans. Yes, there are laws to protect them, but if you are not ever vigilant, there are things that your child should be getting that could be slipping through the cracks. So it is extra important for us to make sure that we are reaching out and making sure that we understand exactly what they are saying to us and not to make assumptions about what is going on within special education. This year was interesting for myself and my husband. We actually went through our first IEP where we were on the other side of the table. Our youngest son at Grant just recently started the pre-K special ed program underneath Miss Christy Keene. And it's been wonderful, but it's also been terrifying and intense and overwhelming, and there's so much stuff to learn. And I'm on the school board. I know how policies work, and I still feel completely overwhelmed when I'm looking into it. For me, this is huge, being a part of our school district, having children in the district and being able to appreciate our parents in a very real and intimate way.
Thank you. Lastly, Jennifer Latosh.
Thank you. Special education was a big topic that happened not only at the forums that happened last year, but also at the strategic planning process, and also made it into our strategic plan as one of the top 9 priorities to make sure that we address in our district. And I'm happy to say that over the last year or 10 months that I've been on the board, I've seen a lot of tremendous growth. I saw the peer-to-peer program initiated in the pilot project at the high school, and what I learned from that, from the teachers that involved in that, and the students involved in that was highly successful. It was so successful that I think they had 4 times as many students that wanted to be part of the peer-to-peer program that we had placements for. And it was so successful, they've now rolled out a model program in the middle school, which again, they had tremendous support and had tremendous turnout for that by those students. And as Nan said, the IEP process, we have stringent state laws in place, but as another parent who went through the process for the first time this year with one of my kids, it's scary. And I like to think that I'm relatively intelligent. I've been an attorney for 15 years. I was a social worker before that. I understand these things, I think, but I went through that process. It was frightening, and I didn't understand it. And I just wanted what was best for my student, for my child, but I didn't really quite know what resources to bring together. And sitting as a person on the board, I thought it should be a lot easier for our students. So Ferndale Friends of Different Learners has done a tremendous job. I wish I could go to more meetings. I can't because we have all these board responsibilities. But my wife, Kat, goes to those meetings, and she brings that back. It's a huge part of our family. And our strategic planning process requires that we're going to expand that and really make that a huge initiative and expand the work of the Ferndale Friends of Different Learners. And I would like to just circle back around and talk about the transparency and accountability as a board as a whole. When we had problems in the past, people getting gavelled down for not filling out a form, just last week we approved a policy to make sure that that's not going to happen in the future. We made it more open and accessible for the people in the community to come talk to us about special education or whatever it is that's on their mind they want to talk about. Thank you.
Thank you. So that concludes our questions. We're now going to have the closing statement. We're going to continue working to the left. It is in the exact opposite order that we started in the beginning. Shocking. I know. So we're going to start with Jennifer Latosh, then work our way down with Nan being the last. You have 2 minutes, and just state your name before you begin again, and let's begin.
All right. Thanks again, everyone. I'm Jennifer Latosh, and I want to thank you all again for coming out today on this gorgeous fall day. I wanted to make a shout out to my amazing wife, Kat, who was in the back of the room, but then had to leave with my son just a minute ago, and also to my parents who are here. Thanks, Mom, for all of your dedication to this. As I said before many times, but I need to say it again, we are at a crossroads today in the Ferndale Public Schools. Nan, Karen, and myself, and the other current board members have worked tremendously hard to bring about the exciting change that we're witnessing today in our schools and in our school community as a whole. A change that truly embraces dignity, diversity, and dreams at all levels. Now is not the time to turn back the clock and return to the restrictive and the unwelcoming policies and temperament of past leadership. While I've only had the opportunity to serve on the board for 10 months, although it seems like a lot longer, I know that I brought invaluable experience to the table that has had direct, lasting, and positive effects on our district. My legal training equipped me to work on the new progressive and district-focused superintendent contract that eliminated conflicts of interest. My litigation experience has prepared me to review problems from different perspectives, to ask the pointed questions, and to advocate for specific outcomes. My social work background primed me to be a truly effective listener and a problem solver focusing on the person. And being active in the LGBTQ community for over 20 years has readied me to champion equity and achievement for everyone. And being a parent of 2 third-grade boys has given me more patience than I knew existed. I am dedicated to our schools, to our kids, and to our community. I am confident that I, and Nan, and Karen are the right people for the school board today and for the next term. The 3 of us are the right people to keep the forward momentum. And I'm asking for your support on November 4th.
Thank you.
So again, I am Karen Toomey, Secretary of the Board of Education. We talked a lot today about accountability and transparency. We also talked a lot about vision and strategic planning. Having served since 2009, I think my biggest learning moment was when I realized that democracy was truly the best tool for all of these. So I need to genuinely appreciate all of you. This community has already brought us so much. You brought us a strategic plan and this wonderful team. And for that, I am truly grateful. What I'm asking now is for the community to again support our schools by voting for Nan, Jen, and I, because I meant what I said. I am so certain that with all the people in this room, we can really, as schools, be the source of pride.
Thank you.
Short and sweet.
Keith Warren.
Thank you again for allowing us this time. As you can see, it's apparently Keith against the world, and I'm happy with that. Frankly, why am I running? Well, I was asked. I met with, I've run across parents and employees through all the events that I've gone to over the last couple of years, and they kept saying, I wish you were back on the board. Reading articles over the last couple of years, listening to speeches, talking to district leadership, people actually in the schools with their concerns about accountability and responsibility, published admissions of Open Meetings Act violations. If I just sat back and did nothing, then I'd accept that. I can't accept that. That's just not me. So I put my name on the ballot. And I'm running a grassroots campaign. I'm the candidate, the campaign manager, the treasurer, the chief marketing manager, doing what I can to get my information and experience out there. If you listen to sound bites, you'll not vote for me. If you want to find out about my experience, and just Google my name, go to my website. I put in an awful lot of time when I was on the school board training to make sure that I knew what was right to do when I sat at that table. But 159 hours of school board training, that's 53 classrooms, more than all the other school board members combined. 1,045 educational units attending conferences in the state, outside of the state, learning school law and finance 5 times. Again, probably more than all the current school board members combined. So if you want experience, you want knowledge and trust as a trustee on the school board, no special interests, no politicians, just me. You'll vote for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And lastly, we have Nan Kerr-Mueller.
Hello. Thank you all for being here. Thank everyone who's going to watch this. Without our community, we can't do any of this. I very strongly believe that we need you to keep on rising and moving forward as a district. As voters, next month, you have two options in front of you. You can vote for Karen, Jen, and I and keep our schools moving forward and rising, or you can put Keith back on the board and we can go back to a draconian way that he supported, like gaveling down community members and hiding shortfalls. In knocking on doors in the last month here in our 4 communities, I found it very invigorating. I knocked when I ran in 2010, I knocked again for the bond, and I knocked in the last election. I believe very strongly in going to the voters to make sure I am reaching out to them. The things that I have heard at the board have evolved over the last 5 years. There's much more hope now. People are excited and they're interested in our district. Young families that I'm knocking on the door with, they're planning on becoming part of our school family. That is not how it always was in 2010. I would knock on doors and people were either untrusting or they knew very little about our schools. They might only know that their neighbors sent their kids to Berkeley or Royal Oak for school of choice. We are reaching out. Our communications department is doing more. Our marketing department is doing more. Please allow us to build on this hope. Please vote for Nan, Karen, and Jen in November.
Thank you.
That brings our forum to an end today. Two things I want to say before we end. Number one, there were some really good questions that we didn't get to. And I really encourage the candidates to take a look at some of these that we didn't get to. What I tried to do, and I take all the blame or the credit, either way, I tried to ask questions where we had a multitude of questions on the same topic. I felt that that was something that if more than one person wanted to hear about it, we had to get to it. There were a lot that maybe came from a single question, but I think were also important that we just didn't get to. So hopefully that'll keep the dialogue going. I just wanted to say thank you. I think she ran out of the room already, but my friend Amy Davison helped put together the logistics for this forum, and I really, really appreciate that. And I just want to thank the candidates. I didn't thank you at the beginning, but it takes a lot of courage and a lot of commitment and generosity to step up in front of the public, take some heat, put forward ideas, and then make a commitment to want to, be on a board for 6 years. I really appreciate all of you wanting to do that for our community, and I'm sure that the voters appreciate it as well. I hope that you have the information you need for November 4th. If you don't, get more information. It's out there. There are questionnaires that the candidates filled out that are on our website that you can find. Campaign lit in the back. Keep it going, and don't forget to show up and vote on November 4th. Thank you very much.